All right, so we'll get the COVID-19 stuff out of the way first. When we spoke with Director of Health Services, Dr. Marvin Manzanero, on Thursday, he had informed that we were to have expected 4 more confirmations, right, in terms of COVID-19 cases within a family that had been identified as having been across the border, illegally, of course. All right, so now we're at 37 cases of COVID-19 in the country. What is unique about this, however, is that there's a state of emergency that has been placed in effect in a particular area of the country, as opposed to, we saw that when the first case had been diagnosed in San Pedro, that San Pedro went under lockdown. Now we're seeing that in the north, the community of Blue Creek is part of the state of emergency, and San Felipe, both parts of the state of emergency that is being affected there. When you talk to persons, Marlene, and this becomes just part of the social chatter, if I may, people are saying to you, well, is it that serious as to why people insist that they're going to go across the border to either purchase items or whatever it is that they're doing over there, considering the fact that Mexico and Guatemala, which are both neighboring countries, are being ravaged by COVID-19. And so that selfish act of going across the border illegally and exposing yourself, you are also exposing, by extension, the country of Belize, right? While we can contain the numbers of persons who are coming in based on the repatriation exercise, which is an official activity, if I may, being carried out by the government of Belize, it's difficult for us to be able to manage persons who are jumping the border, coming back with COVID-19, and then they go back into their communities. You know, we're trying to avoid a community spread. And so the latest information has been released by government insofar as what is happening there. There was a statutory instrument that was released on Friday evening as well, which speaks directly to the state of emergency for Blue Creek and San Felipe.
Yeah. You know, we've been warned for weeks that our greatest area of weakness would be with border jumpers. And we have seen messages from both the police department and also from health officials encouraging people, one, to just not do it. Secondly, to report if they know of anyone who's gone across the border. And, you know, I think the cases that we have reported so far show very much why people should be concerned, because you come back into the country, unlike when you come through the PGIA through the repatriation process, or even the northern border through the repatriation process, there is a protocol in place. Immediately you are tested, you are taken to a facility to quarantine for 2 weeks. So the amount of people you come in contact with are limited. And if there is a confirmation later on, it's easier to trace who you came in contact with. With border jumpers, you don't have that. And, you know, I think this issue, it seems to be of grave concern to the point that they issued the state of emergency. One of the interesting things I found is that the cases that are positive are from Blue Creek Village. And I was looking through, because we know the Office of the Director of Health Services, he really keeps people updated through his social media. And so we mentioned that really the situation in San Felipe is that no one is speaking about who's crossed the border. And that's part of the reason for their state of emergency, that no one wants to report who entered the country illegally. And so that is part of the reason for their state of emergency. I think we can continue to educate people on the risks they put themselves in. We get it, it's your neighbor, maybe it's your family member, but just recognize that as much as you're looking out for their, you feel that you're doing them a favor by not reporting them because they're not going to go through charges or quarantine. you're also putting your health and the health of your loved ones at risk.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty high price to pay for loyalty. So it is important for us to recognize that it is going to take a collective effort. And it starts within those very communities where the illegal entries are taking place.
Yeah. So that's the situation
Yeah.
insofar as COVID-19.
Well, we are expecting to be able to get the results soon, because I know the swab, they did the mapping and the contact tracing over the weekend, and they've swabbed some more people. Apparently,
Yeah.
one of the cases was seems to be symptomatic, and some of the people they came in contact with appear to be symptomatic. These are some of the information I've read so far. So they've been swabbed, and we're going to wait for those results and see if there is a community spread, in fact.
Yeah. So to shift now to what took place on Sunday,
Yeah.
which was the second leadership convention being held by the United Democratic Party to elect a successor for outgoing party leader and Prime Minister Dean Barrow.
Yeah.
Polls were open at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. The modus operandi, if I may, was completely different from what we experienced or what we observed the first time around on the February 9th
Yeah.
convention, where unlike all the fanfare and everything that we saw the first time around, this was bare bones in a manner of speaking, right? It's strictly business. You come in, you cast your vote, and then you're bussed out to the location that you came from. And so it made for a more expeditious process in terms of being able to cast the vote and the subsequent counting. So that shortly after 2 o'clock, I believe it was, if I was keeping track of time, shortly after 2 o'clock there was an announcement, albeit informally. Someone had come from from inside the counter room to say Patrick Faber had emerged victorious. And so that was the initial interview that was done to indicate that we have a winner. Eventually, the chairman of the party came forward to make official the results. And indeed, Patrick Faber won. There were three candidates that participated in the convention, right, including John Saldivar and Wilfred Elrington. What is noteworthy here is that this is also Wilfred Elrington's swan song, right?
Well,
he
as
has
we learned
indicated,
yesterday,
he has indicated that he will not be participating in the upcoming general elections, offering himself as a candidate for Pickstock Division. So that is where we are there. What I want to do at this point before we continue the conversation is go to the actual interview that was done with the chairman, where he's announcing the winner, and then the swearing in and words from Patrick Faber. So let's get into that now.
567 delegates of the UDP voted today to select the new party leader-elect. 567 out of 569. Patrick Faber received 286 votes. John Saldivar received 267 votes. Wilfred Elrington received 10 votes. And there were 4 rejected ballots. So the official tally, given the official tally, the Honorable Patrick Faber is the new party-elect leader of the United Democratic Party.
I, Patrick Jason Faber, do solemnly swear that as the United Democratic Party leader-elect, party leader eventually, I will work diligently to bring victory to our United Democratic Party. I pledge to be true and faithful to the principles and ideals of the party. I will uphold the party's constitution, and I will work hard to the very best of my judgment and ability, so help me God. It is my life's ambition, as you know, to become the leader of this party and to be of service to this party. of course, that the only thing that can make that further complete is offering my service to the country as the Prime Minister of this country someday. And I'm hoping that that is very soon with the historic victory of the UDP that will be in November or whenever the general elections are called. It's a very happy feeling, but I want to say this afternoon that it would not have been possible, of course, without others. And there are those who, of course, stood by me from the beginning in terms of my ambition to lead this party. I want to thank all of those standard bearers and ministers and, of course, the delegates who were always FABA supporters. But then, of course, you know that there were those who decided this time around to give me their support, and the victory could not be possible or would not be possible without them. And so I thank all those. I thank those who voted for me and those who voted against me, because that proves that this is a democratic process and that the United Democratic Party is alive and well when it comes to the democracy. I wish to thank Minister Saldivar. He has been a long-standing friend of mine and also a long-standing rival, given our ambitions coinciding in the way it does. I believe there is a place for John Saldivar in this party, and I am sure that we will continue to work with him and the party membership, and in fact the entire country can be assured that one of the first things that I will do is, of course, to reach out to my colleagues who did not support me, so that we are able to unite this party and make it the winningest machinery that we all know it can be in terms of fighting elections and fighting for the people of our country.
All right, so that was the first words from Patrick Faber upon winning the convention on Sunday.
Definitely a visibly different event from what we saw in February of this year, where it was, and clearly that was just to show that 5 months ago we were living in a very different time, where there was a mass gathering of the party. It was celebratory, and you know, all the music and all the energy. This one was clearly just getting to the duty for the day. In terms of context, it is the same number of delegates that were eligible to vote, the same list of persons who had been submitted for that first leadership convention in February, and so the same people went back to the polls, and the majority made a different decision this time around. I think the margin in February for Saldivar's win was over 100.
Over 100, yeah.
And the margin for Faber's win in this convention is about 19.
Yeah.
So he was able to secure the victory with a small margin, which says, and I think speaks to the very same point that he spoke of in needing to be able to do some healing.
What you need to look at as well, or what needs to be taken into consideration, is all that has happened since February 9th. Insofar as, one, the fact that John Saldivar was plagued by the Lev Derman scandal, that is one. And we all know what happened in the immediate aftermath of his victory then.
Yeah.
You also have to look at the COVID-19 situation as well, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic where the leader of the country is still very much at the helm of the fight for COVID-19. So Faber has said, well, the PM will remain until that date for the general election, you know, and that takes place primarily to deal with, as I said, government's response to COVID-19.
Yeah.
Whereas he, Patrick Faber, will now be focusing on bringing together and solidifying the machinery ahead of the November elections. We're saying November because there still has not been a change
or
of
when
date
it's
or
called.
set. Yeah, so we're simply going with November 2020. So that's what we're looking at. Now, the other thing that I want to touch on is the Elrington situation, as I had mentioned earlier. What I want to do now is to go to an interview that was conducted with Minister Elrington, and then when we return, we'll get some chit-chat going.
Never thought I would win.
So why are you running? Symbolic?
Yeah, symbolic. I wanted it to be said later on that I did offer myself. I don't want anybody to have said, well, look, you didn't offer yourself, so you can't be in a position to comment. You had a chance, you could have offered yourself, and you did not.
But
But
Mr.
you're-
Elrington, no one runs in politics to lose.
That is the normal and the conventional person. I'm always unconventional. You know that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But when you look at the fact that you've put forward that should you not win today's convention, you will not be contesting the general elections, are you going to make good on that promise, if I may?
Yes, I have promised the cabinet that I will not serve under either of the two, whoever wins. And that means that I have come now to the end of my tenure as candidate, political candidate for the United Democratic
Is
Party.
it-
Some would argue, however, that if you wanted to resign from political life, you could have done so without necessarily offering yourself for this convention.
Yeah, except Isani, that these are exceedingly unusual times. And the difficulties I see facing the country are so monumental that I thought it would imperative that I offer myself, given the experience that I have had over the years. I have been in this business from 1964. I have seen most things and I've heard most things. And I just thought that I would perhaps have a good chance of positively helping to get the country over this very difficult period that we are really presently in.